welcome to Sprite Plays Pavel Quest. This is a game that I showed a little bit of this game in an uncommentated video, and today I want to do more of a regular Let's Play and talk a little bit about why it is that I picked up this game and why it is that I found this game really compelling. So let's get into a new game. So I finally captured the great hero Pavel. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Lucas. I own this castle and island. You will never escape. Enjoy rotting in my dungeon, and don't try breaking that door. It is totally impregnable. So in this game we play as Pavel, and this is a one-button game, which means that all we can do is jump. That's the only way we have of controlling our character. But we can actually have a lot of control just being able to jump, because we can jump with a lot of precision, and so it's possible to do things that in such a way that it actually makes the game more interesting than I thought a one-button game could be. I don't have a huge amount of experience with one-button games. I've played this. I played one, I think, called Sepia, and I played Cannibalt. And this is the first one to really capture my excitement and interest. And I want to kind of go over a few things that it does that really stand out to me. One is that it captures a lot of what I liked in Street Fighter, which is kind of the very tight timings that I'm completely failing to hit. And it looks like we're going this way. Alright. Didn't quite make it there. Let's see if I can do a little bit better. It has the sort of really binary timings that I liked in Street Fighter, where everything is very much either you make it or you don't, and the only variable is when you press the button. There's nothing about when you release the button, and so it really distills the timing puzzles down to kind of the part of them that I like the most. So even though there's not a lot of interactivity in this game, they kept specifically the bits of interactivity that I most like. And so I've just found this game very satisfying. And I've kind of found it satisfying in a similar way to how I found Street Fighter satisfying. It's really a game where you can work on a jump and get it down perfect, because it's a difficult game, but it's limited in its difficulty. I managed to completely do that wrong. Now let's see if I can, yes! Landed that, and then immediately landed on the spikes, and that was way too early, so I'm gonna have to go back around again. So just little subtle changes in when I jump determine which of these paths I end up going down. And that one's the shortest. So there is a certain amount of potential, and why I did a segmented speedrun of this, because timing everything correctly makes you go a lot faster. And learning when to jump on some of these tighter jumps is a really satisfying learning process. It's really one where it feels like things come together fairly easily. I don't ever feel like I'm completely stuck on a jump, though I've never had it completely turn me around like that. I've played a lot of kind of hardcore, very difficult platformers where there's been some element of feeling like I have to do something that's a little bit too hard, but in order to practice it, I have to do something that is still kind of too difficult to do consistently. And so I end up feeling like I don't ever get a chance to work on any particular part of the game and get it consistent. Now, this level in particular is pretty tricky because everything is timed in a very specific way. And so you have to jump in exactly the right place to hit this in exactly the right place, and if you do it right, you will bounce all the way up that tower. And so hopefully I will get it in not too long, but I'm going to probably have a lot of failures along the way, which is kind of part of what I like about these games. I've kind of taken to calling this genre of game instant reset games, because that is what really stands out for me, is that when you fail, everything resets immediately. And so that lets you get into this rhythm of just trying things over and over, and you can actually hit the R key to reset before you get killed by anything. So it's possible to get into a really satisfying rhythm of just trying things over and over again. And eventually you get it down, and so that's really what I find compelling about this game. There are also some kind of subtle tricks that you can pick up that you don't see a lot of in the earlier parts of the game, but once you get into, especially in the second world, there's a lot of stuff where you can change your jumps timing just to hit things in exactly the right place. And it can be very, very satisfying to kind of get little tricks that don't always look like they're possible at first. Some of them take almost frame-perfect timing. There is a buffer in the jumping. Oh, that was a mistake. So if I'm in the air and I hit jump a little too early, I'll jump immediately when I land. So having that buffer is really helpful, but there is a jump later on that you can't buffer because it's just, you have to run for a certain number of frames, and then you have to jump. And so it has the same kind of feeling that I got from playing Street Fighter and doing a lot of the frame-perfect stuff in that game. Of you just work on it over and over again, and you get it more and more consistently. And it feels really satisfying. I think I may be saying that kind of over and over again, but that's really what this game comes down to me, is just how good it feels to land things correctly. And how good it feels to just reset over and over. I've never had it go to the right there before. This level is very fun, and I want to reset it, even though I probably would have made it out. I want to reset it because there is a pretty fun trick that's introduced in this level, and I want to show you because it becomes very important later on, and that's that you get launched very fast sometimes. There are certain things in the game that can make you run much faster, and so the last jump in this level is actually very difficult. Let's see if I can get to it. I'm having a little bit of trouble. But because everything is so simple in this game, I don't have the same sense of frustration that I got from a lot of the other games like VVVVV. I found too difficult to be fun. And there's stuff in this game that I find very difficult, but it's a kind of difficulty... Jump too early there. It's a kind of difficulty that I just find much more fits my style of playing, and I'm not sure exactly why that is. I don't know what it is about one game that makes it more satisfying. I jumped too early again. I really don't know what it is about this game. I think it's just that it's so distilled down to timing and just about tapping the button at the right time that I don't feel like there's more than I can handle. I feel like for a game to be really satisfying, a lot of the time it ends up being too much for me for a game to have even very simple mechanics, like in VVVVV, where you have to go just left, right, and swap. And that ended up kind of being more than I could handle in some of them, because you had to press and release buttons in particular timings. And now that everything I said there is completely true of Umihara Kawase and a lot of games that I really do like. So I think a lot of times what I'm coming to as a conclusion is really that I don't know what it is that I like, and I kind of try to come up with justifications, but ultimately it ends up being just I like some things, and then I dislike things that are very similar to things that I do like, and I don't really understand why it is. And it may be something as simple as this game being relatively easy. I don't know. It doesn't feel easy to me. It feels compellingly difficult, but a lot of games are designed to feel more difficult than they are. I think the best known example that I can think of off the top of my head is I Want to Be the Guy, which Kayan, the designer of that game, went to great lengths to make sure that the game felt much more difficult than it actually was. And so people actually ended up deciding that the game was too easy eventually, and that was why someone made I Want to Be the Boshi, was they decided that the game was not difficult enough for their taste. And so they wanted to make something in a similar style, but that was more challenging than I Want to Be the Guy. Now let's see if I can hit this. Yes! Alright. That's kind of a shortcut to clear that level. There's a whole long series of jumps that you have to go down if you don't get that jump correct. Now, the fork part 2, you have to jump pretty early to hit that, and then there's those spikes there. If you go down, there's quite a bit more jumping. You have to go over that. And then there's that. And so I find it quite a bit easier and quicker to go across the top here. And for speedrunning, certainly that makes a big difference. You have to do this jump whether you go across the top or through the bottom. So these are kind of fun, having to go through the anomalies there. So I ended up doing that route instead of the faster route, but I'm not speedrunning it right now. I think eventually I would like to try and do single-segment speedruns of this game. I'll have to get a lot better at it. And boy, my interest in speedrunning has really warped my idea of what makes games easy or difficult, so it's really reinforced for me, I think, that sense that game difficulty is something that we bring to the game a lot of the time. Whoop, I did not make that jump. I think I need to jump a little bit earlier there. You have to get enough vertical speed here to bounce pretty high up. So let's see if I can do that. I know there's a way of... I think that was too late again. Yeah, I'm missing the bouncer. Now I feel like there's a way to get up to the top of this more quickly and not have to do that twice. I feel like there's a way to do that in a single bounce. So let's see if that gets us where we're going. Yeah, there we go. So the further you fall onto these bounce pads, the faster you end up going, and that can get you some places much more easily. This is sort of the level that introduces this kind of mechanic of these disappearing blocks that often you have to get through in very elaborate ways, and that level is actually very difficult I have been practicing it a lot, but I did not expect to get through that on my first try. I had a lot of things go right, and I actually managed to recover after I made a mistake on that first set of blocks. Normally, once you go over the end of those blocks, it's very difficult to get... Now this is very tricky, and I'm going to mess it up lots and lots of times. It's difficult to get back on top of those blocks like I did in that last level. So this one, there are exactly enough of these disappearing blocks. And I'm going to have to get this early bit done correctly if I'm going to show you, which could take some time. This is not a particularly difficult series of jumps, but I'm having some trouble. So yeah, there's exactly enough of these. Whoops. So you have to only ever use one, and one of them is high enough that if you do it in the way that seems obvious, if you hit there and then there, now we're not able to hit that highest up one. And so that will cause problems for us because we're going to run out of these blocks before we make it all the way through, and now I can't show you. But you need every single one of those disappearing blocks in order to make it through that wall. You just have to wear it away little by little. I haven't figured out if there is a way of getting through this more quickly. I just need to reset because if you get rid of that first block, there's just no way to complete the level that I can see. But once you get rid of that, then you can get those, and then this one, and then you don't even need to jump at all to get that one, but you need to get the one above it first, I think. Or it's easier to get the one above it first. So yeah, no jump there at all. Now this last set of jumps is a little bit tricky, but I managed to do it, and then we just drop down in there. So there may be some way of getting over this without doing that whole thing. Some faster route. I have not been able to find it, but I would be interested to see that if it exists. This game has not seemed very popular. I don't know if it's just not well known. How did you get out of that cell? Lucas told you not to break that door. No matter. You shall not escape the Master's castle. Yeah, this game has not seemed particularly well known, and so I was a little bit surprised because it seems like it has a lot of things that are really tuned in a way that people would like, and I don't know if it was an issue of promotion or if there's just sometimes there's stuff about games that I find them extremely compelling and a lot of people do not find them compelling. I know that that has happened many times in the past, and so I'm not entirely surprised that this game isn't all that popular, but I also think that it may be an issue of knowledge and promotion as much as anything else, because I find this game so satisfying. And I'm going to have to remember the order that these come in, because the timing is different for every fireball. So that one I have to jump right there and then immediately, and then this one I have to jump kind of when I'm halfway across the floor there. So jump in, bounce off that wall, jump a little bit later there, and I think it actually helps my timing to jump twice there, even though I don't need to. Because then I just jump immediately after that, and then this one jump halfway across the floor, a little bit earlier than that. So jump there for the timing, and then jump there, and up. So maybe closer to a quarter of the way through. They do a good job of kind of messing with your sense of timing, especially in the later levels. There we go. Whoops. So I need to jump generally earlier. There's one level very near the end where they just really troll your sense of timing in a way that I quite like. And I don't think I'm going to make it there. I think I may end up ending it on either this level or the next level. Alright, this one. There we go. And there we go. And that's victory on this level. So now we're heading into World 2. And World 2 is, I think, quite a bit harder. And it has some... I don't think it has new mechanics so much as it has levels that give you a lot more opportunity to explore the mechanics of this game. So, I do not even remember this one. So I may end up actually spending a lot of time on it. I really do want to show you the level after this one, though. I think I see the timing for this up route now that I've given it a little bit more. There we go. Oh, not quite. It doesn't feel like there are challenges that are just put there to make me upset. It doesn't feel like the game is ever trying to not have me have fun. And so it's a very difficult game for me that I'm playing over and over the same things, but it's also, it has a very calm feel to it. And part of that may just be that I sort of approach games with a sense of there's nothing at stake, but I have a sense that the emotional pageantry that I've talked about a little bit on this channel may be a big part of the appeal of rage games, and so I may actually be missing out on the biggest part of the appeal for those games, because I don't get really emotional about games anymore, and because when I do get emotional, I stop playing. And a lot of that was very much by design. When I picked up Street Fighter, I was a very emotional person, and I was really trying to get my emotions in check. And I'm still a very emotional person. I still get very passionate at times, and not always the right times. But playing Street Fighter did teach me how to control my emotions while playing a game. And I always get very frustrated when people say that a game, or any kind of non-human teaching aid like a game. Like, people often say, oh, learning a musical instrument teaches discipline. No, it doesn't. I know because I have studied many musical instruments, and I have never learned discipline. You need to learn discipline to play a musical instrument, but the musical instrument will not ever teach you discipline. So when I say that Street Fighter taught me to control my emotions, what I really mean is Street Fighter gave me an environment where it was safe to look at my emotions and consider approaching the problem of how to control them. Much in the same way that I think for a lot of people musical instruments give them a way of approaching the idea of discipline and figuring out how they can become disciplined. And I think that in the same way, Street Fighter really gave me a place where I could safely explore emotional control. And I think that I am stronger for it. I don't know how much stronger. I don't know how much of what I tried to gain from Street Fighter actually got from Street Fighter. And I don't know how well I've been able to apply that elsewhere. I do kind of pride myself on being dispassionate in discussions, but I tried to do that before I ever played Street Fighter. And so it may be that the only thing I learned was how to play video games without raging, and I may have cheated myself out of a good thing by doing that. I found raging in games very unpleasant, and that was part of why I tried to control my emotions. So I would really like to hear what you think about rage games, about challenging games. Is it pageantry? Do you feel good? Do you feel bad? How do they make you feel? Do you come back to them at all? I've often described games as, I like games that feel like they resent being played. And so I would like to sort of externalize that adversarial relationship, because I do like that, but because I've put so much energy into controlling my emotional response to video games, I don't know how well or how honestly I can do that. A lot of things I approach in my life come down to things that try to get a reaction from me, and me trying not to get a reaction from them. I actually really enjoy putting up the Christmas tree because it's such a frustrating thing that if I can do it calmly, I feel like I have won a victory against myself. And that's something that I find pretty satisfying, and I think this game has a certain element of that. I think that there are definitely places in this game where it feels like the game is trying to get a reaction from me, and I feel empowered by just remaining calm. There we go. Oh! One thing that endlessly frustrates me about myself is the sense that once I've learned a particular jump, I should be able to get it every time, which of course is not true. There is a long distance between being able to do something once and being able to do it consistently, and I know that. I've learned how to learn. There we go. But learning continues to be hard. Alright, so this is the level with the trick, the first level that really shows off this trick. And it's going to take me quite a while to get it, because as I mentioned, you can't actually buffer this jump because you're running when you have to do it. You can buffer the second half of the jump, but the first half just has to be timed exactly right. And it doesn't save a huge amount of time. You can clear this jump by just doing this correctly. You can do that, go around it in one cycle. There's no really easy way to do this, but there are ways of timing your jumps that are probably easier than the one that I want to show you, but the one that I want to show you is so fun. And I'm very much all about doing things the hard way, especially... Well, now I'm just doing it all the time. Basically, you hit the top and side of something at the same time, and you jump when you do it. You change direction, and you jump, and it can get you turned around a lot quicker than you would be able to otherwise. So you have to jump. I think it feels frame perfect to me, based on the Street Fighter combos that I've worked on. It feels like a one-frame jump, but I have not a lot of confidence. I've worked on a few one-frame things, a lot of two-frame things, but a lot of the two-frame stuff that I worked on was actually plinked, so it was 3 frames, because I would basically hit 2 buttons that would extend, it would make it like I was hitting the buttons twice instead of just once. Alright, so that's Pavel Quest. I think it's worth $5. I hope I've shown you enough that you can make that decision. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments, but most of all, thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.